Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of WaveCast, the official podcast of the Marine Institute of Memorial University. In this episode, we'll be hearing from Dylan May and Madison Doyle, both from the Nautical Science program, with Dylan being a recent 2020 graduate and Madison just starting her first year. I hope all you listeners will find the differences and similarities in their experiences with the program as interesting as I did. Have a listen.
Thanks, Kerri, for having me on today. A little bit about myself. I'm currently living in PEI, and right now I'm working as first officer with Royal Caribbean, the cruise line. Graduated from Nautical Science at the Marine Institute in 2020, and after graduating, I came back home to PEI, and at that point, the pandemic was still kind of in full force, and there wasn't too many jobs available. So I decided at that time I was going to further my education. So I enrolled in some online classes through MI. It was this Bachelor of Maritime Studies degree, and I took my major in safety management, which has been pretty useful for me. With this online safety management degree, I was focusing on like accident investigations, human factors, maritime security, and project management. So I didn't actually finish it because at that point I was hired on as second officer in June of 2021 with Royal Caribbean. So I wasn't actually able to finish it. I have 2 courses still left, but it's almost done, and it's been helpful so far. So that's kind of my background and my education, what I've taken at MI. And here we are today, all the way in 2024. Crazy how time flies.
Yeah, it really does. And especially with like the slowdown of the pandemic and then the acceleration afterwards.
Yeah.
You say you're from PI originally.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So did you always want to go into being some kind of, officer on a cruise ship or?
Yeah. My story goes way back. It really all started when I was around 6. So I was 6 years old in school, and for some reason we read some book about the Titanic, and I was just baffled with the story, with the situation. I couldn't believe how this beautiful ship was at the bottom of the ocean on its maiden voyage. And I was, in my 6-year-old brain, I was thinking to myself, I was like, how could this happen? If I was there, what would I have done? Maybe if I was captain, things would have gone different. So as I got older, this kind of turned into a love of ships in general. And then that led into my love of, okay, maybe you have modern day cruise ships. Maybe I might like to work on something like that. What if this was my job? Navigating these ships all over the world, different places, sounded pretty cool. And then growing up in PEI, this played a big role too. My parents live right on the water, and we've always had a boat growing up. So I got to spend a lot of time on the water, on the ocean, and I really loved everything about it. It kind of fit in well with my personality and being outside and being in nature. So as I kept researching kind of careers on ships, I thought being an officer, it wasn't just about the sailing around. It was like so much more. I mean, you have to, when you're out in the ocean all alone, you don't really have anybody to call to come and get you out of situations. So you have to have a knowledge of meteorology, navigation. Even we do courses in school like astro navigation, firefighting, advanced first aid. So I mean, just having a career where you can kind of know a little bit about everything, and it's pretty rewarding. And then when I was thinking about programs, I was also researching like, okay, I don't want to just be stuck at some 9-to-5 office job. I want to have something where I can travel around and feel kind of like I'm doing something that's rewarding. And the other great thing about working on ships is you have this amazing time on and time off. So for my current schedule, I'm doing 10 weeks on, 10 weeks off. So yeah, it might seem like a long time that you're working, you're doing 10 weeks. But then when you have this 10 weeks off, you can really pursue anything you want to pursue. You have like so much free time. And so it really leaves the door open for anything you want to do. So it's a great career. It worked out well. I'm liking it so far. So that's kind of what got me interested. It's a long story going back since I was 6, but here we are.
It's actually really interesting because we interviewed, so you being an alumni, we interviewed someone that's also going to be on this episode, and she just started her first year. And even her, like, she had the same thing as you, where she knew she wanted to be an officer on a cruise ship specifically from the time that she was about 7.
Okay.
So you saying 6, her saying 7, it's really interesting that there's such like a developed passion like so young, and then both of you were able to just kind of like push through and like get to that point where you were actually, you know, fulfilling this like little childhood dream, basically.
Yeah. Well, you know the old saying, like if you have a dream and you push and push and follow through with it, you know, you can really achieve anything you set your mind to. I mean, it worked out well. Like I was lucky with a lot of things, how it all played out, you know, but um, it is kind of cool as well that when you're a kid, you have this kind of fast, like some people want to be astronauts, some people want to be doctors, you know, and then
Mhm.
to have a love of the ocean. And I mean, it's pretty neat how people do have these kind of triggers in their childhood, you know, and you see something and then there you go, you follow
Yeah.
through and you can make anything happen. With my choice for Marine Institute, when I was young, again, I was researching, okay, where can I go to study for this? What do I have to study? Okay, I knew it was nautical science. I'd done some research and you hear things like I was trying to get my foot in the door. I was like, how do I wanted to work for Royal Caribbean. So my family would take the odd cruise and I would try to network. You know, I was getting in there with the captain whenever I could, trying to get bridge tours. And actually, I was on the bridge of Oasis of the Seas on one of our family trips in March. And I was talking to one officer, Ryan Tilley, who went through the program. He was Canadian, went through MI, and was saying, you know, if you want to work for Royal Marine Institute's a good way because there's connections with the placement office, and there's some other graduates who are captains in the company now. Actually, one of my captains on my ships, I was working on Harmony of the Seas. Marshall Bartlett was a graduate of MI, and he's a pretty respected captain in the company. So there's some people who've gone through the school. And then also you hear things. You hear that MI is one of the best in Canada. It is the best in Canada and one of the best in the world. So that kind of marine reputation really, you know, it's a small industry. The rumblings of how good a place is really travel. And actually, there's there's a marine school here in PEI, like just 30 minutes away from where I live. And I went to them. I was going checking out their facilities. They're, you know, asking the instructors there, and they were saying, if you're serious about a career at sea, go to Marine Institute. So that was kind of their word to me because they don't have a placement office. There's no guarantee you're going to get work terms. So yeah, that's where it went. And also it's close to PEI, so it's not so far away, which is a bonus. And kind of Newfoundland as a whole is a pretty rugged, interesting place. You know, it's very rooted in maritime events and history, and you have all the ships in the harbor. You know, the Coast Guard's there, you know, all the supply boats are there. So even when we were in kind of class, we'd go down just randomly to the harbor and tour a ship, which is something that's pretty nice that you can just do. It's so close. And then actually one other huge thing about me picking the Marine Institute was you guys do this nautical skills competition every year.
Yeah.
And when I was a high school student, they flew me over to participate. And that was kind of my first taste of what I was going to expect for the next few years. So I don't know. It's pretty cool how you get thrown into groups with not only people from your class, but people from all the years at the school. And then you have to just kind of work together and you're networking with all these people and coming up with the exercises. So, I mean, I've enjoyed that. I did that every year that I was a student there. And then you get the bragging rights when you win too. You know, you get your name on the plaque, you get a bit of money, and everybody gets pretty competitive with that. So that was kind of one of the fun things I took away from MI. Everybody kind of signs up that they want to participate, and then they give random teams. So you get a random disbursement of teams, but you basically have a few first years, a few second years, and usually about one fourth year. So one final year student is kind of like the experienced one in the group. And then you have both people from first and second years. And I guess the third years are all out on their sea phase, so they're not really around. And then after that, you kind of go in, they do a briefing. So they go over what exercises they're going to cover this year. There's general seamanship where you're in the rigging room, you're tying knots, you're doing some splices, you're throwing the heaving line, you're, you know, kind of the hands-on part of seamanship. And then you have a bunch of simulator exercises too. So you're doing either some SAR exercise where you're doing search and rescue, driving the rescue boat around, doing search patterns. You're taking a ship through the locks in the St. Lawrence Seaway, or you're doing ballast operations on an oil rig that's being hit by a storm. They also have one simulator exercise where they start having everything fail on the bridge. So you start losing power. You have to do emergency response. So you kind of have to give a safety briefing before go over with your team what your plan is, what your contingencies are. You know, actually in one exercise they had us on an oil rig, or we were on a supply boat towing an iceberg out of the way of a rig. So we had to go around the iceberg with a big tow line and connect it up. And it's just like you get to play around with the toys. Marine Institute has quite the simulators there. So they're like, Captain Chris Hearn is managing all these simulators there at the Center for Marine Simulation. So for us to get the chance to go play around on that, that's worth it just for me. Plus you get the teamwork and the networking. So
right. You mentioned that you did the nautical skills program or competition while you were still in high school.
Yeah. You're kind of more of an observer. You're there just to, like, they just started doing it the first year before I actually came to MI, having the high school students come. But just an opportunity to kind of participate. They switch you around on random teams. You get to help out in the exercises. Of course, nothing. You're coming there, you're like wide-eyed, like, oh, what's going on here? But they'll put you to something useful. Same as when you have a cadet come on your ship. You have to find a way to integrate them into your operations, into your team. So yeah, no, I was pretty lucky that they brought me over for that. So,
and do you think that like kind of confirmed for you, like, yeah, this is the program I want to go to, like this is the kind of industry that I want to pursue in the future?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you never really know until you jump into something. Like you have people even that do first year of the program, they get out to sea, you do your first sea phase after the first year, and then they get on the ship and they find out, oh, this is not for me. And fair enough. I mean, at least they have the opportunity to get on the ship and see, is that right for them? Being there as a high school student, I already had the passion. I already knew I wanted to do it. But when you're actually there and you're playing around in the simulators, you're doing the real things that you'd be doing, then you're like, okay, yeah, this is for me.
I think it's always very important for like, if you have this like childhood dream, or even if you have, an idea of like what you want to go into in the future, it's always good to be able to try it out first, because you don't want to invest so much time and then just not be able to like actually enjoy what you've chosen. You say like getting into or doing this high school program was great. You already had the idea of going in, but now that you're kind of out of it, you've graduated from like the nautical science program, what advice like would you have for new students that are looking to get into this program? Either advice on what like they should expect of the program itself, or what advice, if they are still high school students, should they work on in the future to get into the program?
If you're a high school student and you kind of have a passion for the industry and you want to try it out, just try it out. I mean, there's plenty of jobs. You're not going to go wrong. I mean, if you work in Canada, you're more so going to be month on, month off. So it's not so much of a time like that you're sacrificing. I'm going to be away for 3 months at a time, or, like when you first started in the cruise ships, you're 14 weeks away at work and then 14 weeks home, which is a bit longer period of time. But I mean, when you're young, you don't really mind it. I mean, you're just experiencing the world, you're traveling around. But yeah, if you're working in Canada on somewhere, it's less, you're month on, month off. That's nothing. And money's great. I mean, there's so many jobs, so you're not really going to go wrong. This is if you don't get seasick or anything. I mean, you might already have a love for the water. And even if you don't, I mean, none of my family was working at sea. I was the first in my kind of family to go to sea. Yeah, I don't know, just go for it. I mean, and for current students, my biggest advice is just enjoy the time that you're in school, you're a cadet, when you're in that learning process at MI, because it does go by really quickly. And it's some of the best years of your life. You're going to make these lifelong connections, these networks, these friends. So yeah, just enjoy it while you're there. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end. I mean, you're going to have no trouble finding a job. For the sea phases, like any people currently in nautical science, I would just say try and work on as many different ships with as many different companies as possible to really get that overall experience, because you'll notice when you go from ship to ship and company to company, the culture and the people you work with are totally different, and you can kind of learn a different piece from each place you go. And when you're at sea, your whole kind of experience that you have, like when you go into a new situation, it's usually built on other situations that you've been on in the past. So the more diverse experiences you can collect, the better. So that's what I'd recommend. I mean, a lot of people just stay with one company, which is fine, I guess, if you're going to work with that company forever. But I found it really nice to go to a variety of different ships when I was a cadet, see a lot of different things, travel the world. I got out of Canada, which is nice. You don't want to be stuck in Canada. You want to see the world. And yeah. And then while you're actually a cadet and you're working on your logbook, like people have the tendency to leave all the projects for the very end of the sea phase, which you have 12 months. So it's nice. I know it's hard when you're working long days, long hours, to like spread out all the projects you have to do, because the logbook that we have, this training book, is a lot of stuff to do. A lot of it very dated things, like drawing all the ship's plans by hand. So, I mean, it's a pain, but just to spread it out over the course, and also ask lots of questions. This goes both while you're in school, when you're a cadet, and even once you're like positioned in a job full time. Like, questions are so powerful, just to like always be curious, and just ask questions. There's no stupid questions really, especially when you're a cadet or when you're in the learning phase. So yeah. And then also for MI, they have this Master Mariners of Canada, which is super cool to get involved in. They're like mentors, experienced captains. I mean, along with all your kind of captains and instructors at MI, everybody at MI is so experienced and has all these like amazing stories to tell, which really helps with the learning process when you have someone who's been doing it their whole life and they have like a funny story attached to each thing they want to teach you. So you learn better that way than just someone straight out of a textbook with no real world experience. So I don't know, that's my advice. I mean, as a high school student as well, you gotta really know the math and physics. I mean, take as much of that and chemistry or whatever as you can in high school to get familiar with it, because that's what kills a lot of people first year, is the physics and the math. And then you're already kind of behind when you get in there and you haven't seen that stuff before. So, but it's fun. That's my main advice I have. So schooling is one thing. And then you get on to when you actually start being a cadet, or when you actually start working with a company, that's when you actually learn the most, I would say. Like, you do the schooling to be proficient in most things. And then when you actually get to a company, it's learning how they do things, how they have their procedures. And for me, I'm happy I was a cadet on the cruise ships, because their systems and processes are like insanely different from any other ship you're on, because you have just so many people, so many, the emergency duties of everybody on board. You're talking like 2,000 crew members. And, when you're an officer, when you're in a leadership position, you have to understand what everybody's doing. The navigation's the easy part. When you get in there, you have to just learn, how does this company operate? But again, there's time for that. There's time worked in for all those things. But I mean, that's usually the challenge. You're learning the ship, you're learning the ship's equipment. And then on top of that, you have, okay, how does this company operate? How do I do the permits? How do I do this? How do I do that? So yeah, that's really the hard part when you get out, just trying to fit in and figure out how everything works as quickly as possible. As one of our captains in the school says, guys, we're simple sailors, that's it. We don't overcomplicate things. So that always stuck with me. And, it's not rocket science. It's just, you're there to do a job, and that's it. And it's really rewarding once you're actually out there. And I mean, for us on the cruise ship, it's quite cool, because we have so many crew members coming on board without these safety trainings that are required by Canada. So, when we're coming on with basic safety and advanced firefighting, a lot of these crew members don't have it. So we're giving them the training as they come on. So we're certified to give this training. So we're taking them up in the pool, and we're doing survival training. So we're teaching them how to put on a life jacket, how to put on an immersion suit. We have a training inflatable life raft that we're putting in the pool. We're flipping it upside down, and we're having each crew member flip the life raft right side up, which is all mandatory training that we have to do on land. We actually become teachers on board as well, which is actually a big part of my kind of day-to-day work on board, which is really fun. Actually, I kind of like talking. I like training people. So it's pretty neat to be able to do that so often, like every week on the cruise ship. So
yeah, so you mentioned your day-to-day stuff, and honestly, like I also had to go through this like emergency training just as a part of being on some kind of vessel in Canada. You have to go through the training, but and I really enjoyed that. So mentioning like your typical like day in the life, is there, other than training people, what else does it look like?
Yeah. So typically for me, I'm working like 11 hours a day, 11, 12 hours a day. 8 of those is on the bridge. So you're stuck on the bridge watch. So we do it pretty good on our schedule. We have one 5-hour watch and one 3-hour watch. And then in between that, depending on what schedule you're on, you kind of plan when you want to do like 3 hours of overtime or any other thing you want to work on. So it's pretty open. Like, you can kind of set your own schedule. If you want to work more one day or work less another day, you can stack it up. So you work a lot, and then you can go ashore for a bit some other day. You can really also, there's so many things we're working on. So like on the watch, you're doing, of course, navigation, you're monitoring the weather, stability, fuel efficiency. You're doing a lot of work with the ballast system, with moving freshwater production, consumption. We're always trying to keep the ship trimmed optimally to have the best fuel efficiency. It's a whole thing. And then, of course, on the bridge, you're getting all the 911 calls, all the fire alarms. You're working with the engineers, with security. So that's just busy enough, just being on the watch. You're also making sure you're making it there on time. If you need to start an extra engine, how's the current affecting the ship? Is there a weather system coming? You're watching that. And I mean, so that's one part of the day, 8 hours. And then outside of that, so you have 3 hours kind of to do, whether it be safety equipment inspections or I'm also doing a lot of planning. So planning maintenance schedules, maintenance inspections, making sure we get everything done for the month, for the quarter, for the year. Ordering a lot of parts, spare parts, safety equipment, drills. We're doing drills every week, which are quite a lot. So we have to lower the lifeboats. We're taking crew members down in the lifeboats, doing training sessions so that they know how to drive the lifeboats. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's really different depending on, week to week, day to day. And you can usually pick what you want to do. Like, do I want to do emails today? Do I want to do scheduling? Do I want to report some work done? Do I want to, do a walk around, see what's happening? And then also we have cadets. So of course, that's a big part of the job. So we have some cadets from all over the world. So whether we're taking them on watch, teaching them what they need to know, they can ask questions, or we're taking them around, they're doing around just following us as we do our jobs, stuff like that. And then one great thing about the cruise ships is they're so maneuverable that the captains and senior officers give, the first officers and the second officers the opportunities to actually drive the ship like off the dock. So do undocking maneuvers, which is, I mean, if you're on a traditional ship, usually the captain wants to hold on to that as much as he can, or he or she. And for us, I mean, to have the opportunity when they're like trusting you enough that, okay, you put you on the wing, you do your maneuvering briefing, what your plan is, what you're thinking, here's my contingencies, here's all this. And you actually stand on the wing with the controls, and what you're doing is moving this massive ship off the dock. And it's like one of the most amazing feelings in the world, when you're like driving it. Like, of course, when you're at sea, you're on autopilot or you're picking up the pilot. Maybe you go hand steering for a little bit, but that's where you get the kind of rush for the job. So that's pretty cool that they let us do that so often. I've had a few times this last time I was on board that took it off 3 times. So it was amazing every time. But also, it's something else when you're working somewhere where people are coming, thousands of people are coming to have their like vacations. So when you walk around, when you're just like doing your job, you can almost convince yourself that you're on vacation as well. Like I was walking around the deck, checking some things. I was like, you know what? This is not so bad. When on your off time, you can go up to the running track, like do some running around and go to the nice gym and good restaurants on board. So, I mean, here and there, you can convince yourself you're not at work. You can really take that off time. Actually, I had one Canadian captain from Winnipeg. He was my captain on Navigator of the Seas. And we had an ice rink on this ship. So like a full on skating rink. Yeah. So they were doing ice shows, all this stuff. So we each had hockey sticks on board, and he's a big hockey fan. So he'd call me up every now and then. Hey, I arranged some game. We're going to play against the Russian ice skaters. The Russian and Ukrainians are there. We're going to do Canada versus Russia. So we'd get out a puck and we'd start playing around the ice. And I mean, it's stuff like that you really can't do on other ships. And yeah, we had like a surfing simulator on the upper deck. We'd go up there and go surfing, and you have to kind of take your wins when you can take, of course, you still got to do the job. You got to be professional. But then when you can, go watch a show or go play hockey, I mean, that's kind of the cherry on top for what I picked. So yeah. And then, of course, you get to see all over the world too. I mean, my first, literally, it was middle of the pandemic. I came to work, second officer, fresh. Of course, I was cadet with the company, but I came fresh and joined the ship in Miami. And we basically took the ship around the world. So we left from Miami. We went to Cadiz, Spain for dry dock, about a month in dry dock. And then we went through the Mediterranean, through the Suez Canal. We went to Cyprus. We went to Sri Lanka, South Korea, all the way across the Pacific, and landed up in LA. So, I mean, 3 months traveling around the world with no guests on board. When you first start out as an officer, going through Asia, Malacca Straits, we went to the Gulf of Aden, all these piracy areas. They gave us like bulletproof vests and like these like military hats to wear through the piracy. Of course we didn't need it, but that's just like a typical day. Like, well, of course the world trip wasn't, but like what I just said above about, that's like typical. But in my short career so far, I've had like an insane amount of crazy things happen, like crazy stories, crazy events, crazy, that you think, oh, maybe this won't ever happen in my career. And then it does, and it's just, you start to rack up stories and you're like, okay, they say not every day is the same. And then like when we were going through the Mediterranean, I was on watch, and I saw some plume of smoke on the horizon. Like the smoke was coming up. We're in the middle of the Mediterranean, and we went over to investigate, found a boat of migrants adrift. There were 70 migrants. They'd lost their engine, out of food, running out of water.
Oh God.
They set some barrel on fire on the top of it. So then middle of COVID, we launched the rescue boat. We go down there, we bring them food, water, medical supplies. life jackets, and they're just like fighting over the supplies inside the boat, like 70, like, and they can't speak English. And they were from Liberia going to Italy. They were trying to get to Italy, and then they sent down a translator. And then, like, when do you get to experience something like that? That you're like,
Hmm.
another ship actually came by to, like, we called the Coast Guard. Another ship came by to monitor until the Coast Guard could get there because we had to get to the Suez Canal. But
The fact that even like with you working so much, it seems like, or like you're on the boat the whole time, that you're out for whatever 10 or 14 weeks, but it does seem like you're able to have pretty good like work life balance. And even
you try to, yeah.
yeah, and like
Otherwise, you go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, I don't know, I kind of see cruise ships as like mini apartment complexes. Like, as long as you're able to have all of your little amenities in it, like, you can have a pretty good life there.
You can. I mean, and like, if you plan your work accordingly, like, on one ship we would be in Cozumel every week, and with Cozumel you just kind of pull off the dock. There's a beach bar right there, like 500 meters from the ship. You get all these nice restaurants. So even just to get off for half an hour, sit by the beach, grab some good food, and then you're back on board, and that kind of like resets your brain a little bit, so you're not so drained. Because I mean, it is hard work here and there. Like, it's hard mentally, it's hard physically. Sometimes you have that kind of balance, but just to reset a little bit is really nice to have that
Yeah,
balance, for sure. I
it's
mean, when I
definitely
was doing
necessary
some of
also.
my cadet phases on the cargo ships, I mean, sometimes you go a little crazy after a while, but that's good. You have less time on, month on, month off. It's, it's quick, you're not so, yeah.
Now that you're on a boat, you're working for a company, it seems like you have these opportunities to drive a ship, do more higher tier roles or whatever. Do you see yourself moving up in ranks, or what does that look like for a ship like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely opportunities to move up. Actually, my chief officer that just signed on, he's fairly young. He's 33. And he's chief officer already with Royal. So he did 3 years as second officer, 3 years as first officer, and now he's chief officer. So I mean, if you're switched on and you have the right kind of initiative, and you have to have luck, you have to have certain captains that'll push for you. So I mean, it really all depends. But I mean, that's a pretty nice career path to fly up that way. And then it also depends on you, like, following up back home with your licenses, with your exams. Moving up, getting your chief mate license. There's definitely opportunities. If there's not one company, if you're not tied into one company, that many other companies are hiring. I mean, I have some friends in the Coast Guard, and they're saying, like, some ships, they're really struggling to find officers, to find engineers, and there's some ships tied up because they don't even have people to man the ships. So there's so much opportunity, so much potential. And then when you tie in this Bachelor of Maritime Studies as well, like, whenever you determine, I've had enough going to sea, I want to go to some shore-based job, that transition is pretty easy because you're coming already from the ship with so much experience of so many situations, and then to transition into some, like, safety management position or kind of some investigator, you can really make that transition pretty easy.
Yeah, so it seems like there's, like, aside from like the degree itself of like nautical science and working on ships, like, it seems like you can have a pretty stable life, like, even when you decide you don't want to work on ships anymore, maybe you want to settle down or whatever.
Yeah, and a lot of people went to, like, BC ferries as well, or some, like, local ferry where you can, like, be home most of the time, or a tugboat in the harbor or something like that. So I mean, for me right now, it's nice to be able to go to nice places like Australia, Alaska, Tahiti, to be able to just see the world in these different ways. But for sure, once I get a little bit older, I might start to say,
Yeah.
does my wife want me to keep up with this, going away for 10 weeks or something like
Yeah.
that? So, I mean, right now it doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
I don't know. You have fun with it. I mean, a lot of people will find it's tough going through the schooling, especially, like, if you're fresh out of high school going through the program, it is a lot. Like, you have a lot of courses per semester, which is different to the traditional university experience because it's kind of like 4 years crammed into 3. So yeah, I mean, you really have to focus a little bit, but I mean, if you have a genuine interest in what you're learning, it makes it pretty easy, especially once you get past first year. I don't know, just stick with it. The sea phases, they're also a bit tough, depending on where you get placed, because when you're a cadet, you're really doing the most in every job. So you're trying to stick your nose in everywhere and get dirty, like when I was cadet on the Ocean X Sanderling, which is the local ship going from Halifax to St. John's. I mean, she's built in 1977, so she's very old. So they sent me down there with a needle gun to some staircase with, like, rust an inch thick, and I'm down there, I'm coming up, my face is completely black, I'm like full on, like, I had my goggles on, my mask, I'm taking this off. It builds character. I mean, you definitely have to like get dirty, get in there, try to learn everything, because you don't want to be in a position where you like kind of skipped over some of the manual labor stuff to then be telling people to do things when you're in the position when you can be telling people to do things. So yeah, I mean, just get in there, try and learn as much as you can. That's my kind of final note. I mean, and just in school, study hard, have fun as well. It's all about fun and the balance, as they say. So
no, that all sounds really good, Dylan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi, Madison. Thank you for coming on to this. Would you want to just give a little bit of background on you? Like, where did you come from? How did you kind of get here?
So I am born and raised in the United States in Florida. I currently live by Port Canaveral, but I lived in Orlando for my whole life, so just a recent move. And I've been cruising since I was a little girl, 3 years old. Essentially, from there, I got interested in becoming a cruise ship captain specifically. And by talking with MI graduates and just having very supportive parents and everything like that, it's how I kind of ended up here.
How far along into your MI program are you?
I am in my first year, and I got about a month left until next semester, and it's going.
Yeah. And how long is the nautical science program?
It is technically a 4-year degree with a in your junior year or your third year, you have a 15-month sea time. So you technically won't be at school. You'll be working on and off, but like you can take a class here or there, but you'll still be a fully enrolled student. Just you're working instead of coming to class.
Is that like considered like a co-op?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually moved with your group unless some extreme situations. Like in my case, I'm only 17. So like my upcoming work term over the summer, I'm going to have a slight issue with it because I can't work for a Canadian company due to I don't have dual citizenship, just strictly American. So I have to go back home, which is what I wanted to do. But most companies don't take you until you're 18 because of liability and everything like that. I mean, granted, parents can sign waivers and everything like that, but some companies just don't want to take the liability of having a minor on board a vessel. So I've already talked to, this was addressed last year when I came to visit with Captain Baby, and that essentially in my case, I would, if I can't get a work term because of my age, I will essentially just go with my co-op like normal. And when I graduate, I finish the 2 months of sea time that I missed on the back end, but I still get my diploma and everything like that.
Right. So it shouldn't impact you very much at all.
No, not really, unless it's like something like extraneous has happened, like you fail a class or anything like that. But that's usually they like work it in somehow, some way.
Right. And that sounds honestly like very supportive. And you mentioned your age being just 17. Is there a reason you are coming here so young? You're just super cool and getting here early? So
when COVID hit, I was in 7th grade. So everything went virtual, COVID, everything's virtual, nobody's in class. I ended up excelling in virtual school. So instead of going back to my normal brick and mortar school, I ended up going to virtual school. But the way I ended up doing it was I went over the summers. So instead of doing 4 years of school where you take summer breaks, I did 3 years of school going over the summer. So it allowed me to push ahead of my grade. And I did want to go back to school. But the thing is that when I talked to my district, they basically said that if you want to go back to school, you have to go back a grade instead of being able to go forward. And I looked at my parents, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to, because for me, I like school and stuff that I'm learning about or what I'm interested in. And obviously school is like, it's your standard math, science, history, and English, which is fine. But I would like to go do my career.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to essentially look at my parents, like, can I go to a college a year early? They're like, go. We fully support you. And even my significant other, he was like, just go. Like, he's like, I love you. Even though we live in separate states, he's like, go.
No, that sounds great. And like, it seems like you really knew like what you wanted to do, and having to kind of quote unquote like waste time like in high school, even though it's very important for like development or whatever, like if you can somehow get to what you know you want to do faster, then kind of why not? And so like it seems like you were really driven through that. Can I ask what pulled you into wanting to be a cruise ship captain? What went through your little mind and you were like, this is exactly what I want to do?
So when I was 3 years old, my parents, this is a little bit of a background, but my parents for Christmas surprised me with the cruise. So before I was born, my parents ended up surprising my grandparents with their first cruise, and they absolutely loved it. And the last cruise that they had went on, my mom was pregnant with me. And obviously, mom, 20 weeks pregnant, sick, hot cruise. It was a bad mix. And they've been wanting to try it with me, but they were trying to wait till I was a little bit older, but we ended up going on a Disney cruise. And when we went on the cruise, I did not want to leave. So that started a snowball effect of we just constantly go on cruises every year. And what ended up happening is that when I was 7 years old, I went on my first Royal Caribbean ship. And I went in the Mediterranean, absolutely loved it. 12 days at sea, not long enough. I did not want to get off. And so when we went again on a different ship, we got a bridge tour. And I ended up sitting at the helm wheel, their little helm wheel on the front of the bridge. They put the captain's hat on me and I fell in love. I'm like, this is where I want to be. And even propelled me even more is when COVID hit, we went on cruises for 14 months straight. Like we would go on a cruise, come home, next month go on a cruise, come home. And I'm like, I don't want to go home. Like I love it. Like I enjoy it. And it's kind of like a second home at this point because it's where I know a lot of my family time, and there's so many stories that I could just tell for days and days about what has happened. And with seeing just how that life is, and I mean, the money is a slight driven thing, but it's more for me, it's more about the travel because I really want to go to China and Asia market, Australian market, and it's a quick way for me to get over there because you can just get paid.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very important thing that like your parents started with their parents, and now they're like bringing you into this, and they see how much that you enjoy it and how much you love it, how much it comforts you, and so they're kind of just like, you talked about the support earlier, and now it's like they're supporting you by like letting you live in this environment that like very clearly like you're passionate about and very clearly like so interested in, and like supporting you through that even still. So I think that's very cool of them. Yeah, so I guess moving off of that, like how did you decide to come to MI?
So first of all, there's no school for nautical science in the state of Florida at all. You would think 3 sides of water. There should be a school. So the closest one is either Texas or Maine. But the way the state works, and I'm not sure if Canada works this way, but we have to pay out-of-state tuition or out of province. For me, the cheapest school was $115,000 USD.
That's per year or for the total program?
For 4 years, but that's no room, no board, no food. The most expensive is $200,000 minimum at California. So, and
that's a lot.
Yeah. Found out about MI. First of all, the price for the 4-year program, obviously this is not room or board. It's $65,000 USD. With room and board, it's about $80,000 to $90,000 depending where you go. And so that was automatically a money saver right there. And on top of that, how many people, especially Americans, get to say, I went to Canada for school and I come back home and I have a degree now and I get to go do what I love. It was a very good and rare opportunity for me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I love you, Mom and Dad. I really want to stay close to home, but it's too much of a good opportunity.
Yeah. Do you know anybody like back home in Florida that is doing like a similar program to you, or?
There is nobody that I know.
Yeah.
My parents aren't even in the nautical industry, nor my grandparents. Nobody has ever been in the nautical industry in my family, minus like the Navy.
Yeah.
But after they get out of like the Navy, they go do like business job or anything like that. So my parents are looking at me with their heads cut off, and so are my grandparents. So when I told them I wanted to do this, they're like, okay, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
One step at a time. So it's definitely been difficult because I've noticed a lot with my classmates at MI, a lot of them have some family in the industry. If it's an engineer, a navigational, someone who's a naval architect, I have noticed that there is a heavy pattern. And my only connection to the nautical industry is by meeting people on cruising who have gotten a birth certificate, who have gotten engineering certificate, talking to them how they got there. I was very fortunate to meet somebody from Canada and somebody from the Bahamas who came to MI.
And these are like captains from ships that you've been on?
One is a first officer because he was a newly grad. He graduated in 2020. And then the other one, on his LinkedIn profile, it says Captain Marshall, but we swear on his badge it said Captain Michael. So we just say Captain Marshall. But he graduated, I don't know when he graduated, but it was a while ago, but he's a captain right now. So just by meeting even a first officer who was who just like recently graduated, because like 2020 was a weird time, and meeting somebody who graduated years ago and knowing, almost matching up the stories to be the same is kind of what drove me to come here, even more than just like money saving and just the cool experience. Like, based off the reputation that it is what's good, and knowing from what I have heard from the more recent MI graduate, because he was from the Bahamas, so he obviously had the international student, well, American international. We joke to say international light because we're same continent. But he basically, it was like the same boat, same like traveling from out of country and everything like that. And he was like, they really help to push and they try to do it here. And also, I've noticed by being here, they're really trying to push everybody, that even by just talking to people, that they've had a really good reputation, and it's almost like I'm kind of like entrusting that they're gonna get me there, even if it might take me an extra year, it might do this, do that. It's really that trust factor of a good reputation.
Yeah, and that's something that like I've actually heard from quite a number of people that are in programs here, of like they really care about getting their students into whatever industry they want. Like, it's not just about like, okay, you pass this test, you pass that test. It's like, how can we make you a person and get you into the career that you really want to be in? Because a lot of people come here and they have like an idea of what they want to do, and a lot of them are very passionate, but sometimes like maybe they're not like the best at school, and that a lot of the instructors here are like, that is not the be all end all. Like, we want students that are at MI to like not be pushed away because they're not like, they don't thrive in an academic setting. Like, even though it seems like you do, like being online, but
not really. I more so excel in the assignment portion of it, because I'm the type of person where it's like, if you give me something that either I can pick to do or I'm interested in, I'll do it. No problem, no issues. That's why I hated English class, because they're like, read Shakespeare. I don't want to read Shakespeare. So first officer, his name is Alistair. He was on Icon of the Seas. I was very fortunate. I got a bridge tour of that, like a private one. He was like, we've had MI cadets on, and then he's like, they're great. They're just like top of the line. They're so good. So even hearing from somebody who's never done the program and hearing how the MI cadets or graduates have a rep made me feel a lot better about coming here, and that it was going to be the right choice.
Very exciting. You're almost done the first semester. How are you enjoying it so far?
I enjoy it. There has been a struggle with the fact, so there's a total of 4 girls in the program, and we've really kind of had to rally behind each other, because there's definitely still a door that needs to be broken down, because there's not a lot of us. So it's like, having those girls with me all the time, it's kind of made me feel like more like belong. I knew the industry is not very women oriented. Same thing with engineering. But it's like, it's almost a part of me is like, okay, this is 2024. Like,
can you kind of like bring me through like what programs or what kind of classes you're going through like now, and then also what you're supposed to be doing like in the next 4 years?
So currently I have seamanship, engineering graphics, technical communications, electric technology, and physics 1.
Is there a course in the future that you're really, really looking forward to, other than the like co-op practical side of it? That doesn't count.
I think I'm really, really excited for probably celestial navigation, a lot of the navigational courses. So it's like, next semester I know we have meteorology coming up, and I think it's a second year, first semester, I think we have celestial navigation. I really, really like learning about like our environment and everything like that. And like the ocean, I'm a scuba diver, so it's like, I love the ocean. Just get me in the water and I'm a happy person. And I'm definitely excited for all those classes. I do like my seamanship class. It's very interesting. I know one, like we get in like the simulators and everything like that, and learn how to like actually like navigate it.
The simulator. I was actually going to ask you about that. If you get to use that, can you describe it?
So we have a place called the Launch. At the Launch specifically, we have lifeboat simulations, and we actually have full lifeboats where we can launch them, use them. And then we also have firefighter training we have to do. Which specifically here at MI, I think we have 24 simulators roughly between bridge and engineering side. But I actually I was very fortunate. I got a tour of the simulators privately. And so we have full hydraulic simulators, we have stationary simulators, and we actually have simulators that connect to the engine room and the bridge room, where they can throw scenarios at one that can affect the other and everything like that. So that was also a major difference between here and the American schools. There's definitely a bigger collaboration here, which is great. But with the simulators, the full hydraulic one is like a full big boy.
Yeah, it's just like a cube in a room hanging by these like hydraulic pistons, and it moves you around to simulate like real world conditions or any conditions that the teacher decides to throw at you, basically.
Yep. Yes, the first time I saw it was in Barry mode, so like we really got to see everything on like. And then we have stationary simulators. There's actually chairs in there, and that one is like full screen, but like they can get that thing going. And they had that thing where the waves were rocking and people were starting to get sick in there.
Yeah,
like for me, like I can just adjust my eyes. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a simulation. Like I'm fine. Definitely interesting. I know we get to touch on them a little bit next semester, and then for technical term, we definitely get to use them. They say we at least get to use them for a week.
Right.
The bridge simulators, not the lifeboat simulators. We're gonna be in pretty much all the time because we got to do life-saving appliance training.
Right.
Which is life-saving appliance is like your lifeboats, your life rafts, your lifesavers. So I know we get to do that, and then the following year we really start getting into them. Like,
and those technical sessions are like when you're like in simulator, or like you're applying like these things to
real world situation with that in quotation marks. Yeah. They're like, really, next semester, we're going to introduce you to the simulators, show them how they work. And also we have the nautical skills competition next semester. So, and I think the whole nautical science program has to participate in that. So we'll definitely get in the simulators then.
What is your ultimate, I'm going to do this?
My ultimate goal is to try to work for Royal Caribbean or Celebrity Cruise Lines, specifically Royal Caribbean Company. Another goal is trying to get over to the Asian market, so Asia and Australia. And I was talking with a couple people that are like, yeah, they really sometimes they want Americans over there. For me in particular, I love the water. It's my calling. And with the ocean, I look at my parents every day. They work from home. They work desk jobs. My mom works for a consultant firm for banking. My dad's about to go work for a healthcare company. Looking at them now, they're like, if I knew what you're doing, I would go do that. They grew up in the center part of the state, so there was no water around them, no nothing. So they never were exposed to this. My dad's like, if I knew this was an option, I would be doing this.
Yeah.
And so it's also the fact that I've always had this rally behind me with my parents and my grandparents, and I've been very, very fortunate. And so that's also a heavy driven.
Yeah.
Because they want to see me succeed and they want to see me do what I love. So like right now, that's a major part of like doing this drive is for my family because I love them so much. Yeah, no,
it sounds like you have a good head on your shoulders of what you want to do and how to get there. And our point with like showing these programs is exactly like what you were saying, where if you come from an area where, you weren't exposed to like any marine job environment, like you have no idea that it's out there. And so like we're really hoping that we can expose more people to like the realm of possibilities of what jobs are out there.
It was something, again, I was very fortunate I was exposed to at a very young age. And like for the longest time, like the little girl in me was like, I want to be a vet because I love animals. I can't do blood. I know with that medical, I'm gonna pass out or something. But it's more so the fact that it's like once I found this was an option, oh, this is great. Yeah, I get to be in the water. I get to have an escape, and it was more so the fact that it was like. This is the calling. This is it. And minus the Newfoundland weather, it's really, really nice.
The Newfoundland weather is definitely a shift from Florida weather. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for telling us about the Nautical Science program. I don't know very much about it, and I learned quite a lot, and it sounds like you're really passionate about it.
It's a great program, honestly.
It's very moving to hear how both Madison and Dylan found their passion for working on cruise ships at such a young age, and how that passion has kind of propelled them to where they are today. We hope this episode reminded everyone of the career that they had this immense passion for as a child. As always, if you have any questions for either Madison or Dylan, or if you have suggestions for future episodes, send us an email at wavecast@mi.mun.ca. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.